Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today on our series here, The Grind with THG. So before we get started, we're just going to play a brief video and then I'll be back to bring on Katie.
The world moves forward at an exponential pace. We are impartial arbiters of knowledge. We are the navigators of disruption. We link our known to your unknown. We anticipate what it will take to thrive. Protecting your potential for growth in an exponential world. We are the trusted advisor.
All right. Good day, everybody, and welcome to this call. So this is our next series in The Grind on today, August the 10th. So why do we call it The Grind for the first new viewers on this podcast? It's because we do an interview over a cup of coffee. Running a business is a grind, and having good operational support and services naturally is a grind. So we get to do this over a nice cup of coffee at the end of the day. So that's where it comes from. Today we're going to have on the call with us THG Energy Solutions. Katie Beck will be on with me. Katie, welcome to The Grind, and we appreciate you being here.
Hi there. Good day, Sean. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about what we're doing with our customers and talk about our exciting partnership.
Great. So I'll just give a brief overview of my background that's on the screen without just reading it verbatim. But for everybody out there, 25 years experience, split between finance and operations, and dealing with next-gen IT solutions for mid-market and enterprise accounts, and 15 years consulting and helping them drive their solutions. And we'll get into here in a little bit how we got into the sustainability and utility optimization aspects of business as we have our discussion with Katie. So Katie, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and about THG?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. So again, I'm Katie Becht. I work in business development here at THG Energy. We are an energy software organization that supports customers being able to make their data actionable. So we introduce automation and provide actionable insights that allow our customers and partners to be able to position themselves for success, whether that is in sustainability reporting or advanced energy and load management. And of course, all of that builds the foundation of being able to successfully report when it comes to carbon accounting as well. So we're really excited to be working with CirrusTel on that.
Great, good stuff. So, for example, how did we get here? So from the CirrusTel perspective, we got here because as we were consulting and working with enterprise customers, ESG or sustainability was actually a key decision point in the vendor and the solutions that they were looking to choose. So all things being equal, even if it was a little more expensive for the technology or service from the provider, if their sustainability initiative and goals aligned better with the end customers to help them with their scope 1 and 2 initiatives, right? And their path to net zero for some of them. They were choosing the vendors in our portfolio for the next gen IT based on this sustainability initiative. So we decided to research it, and that's how we came upon THG Energy to be able to do exactly what we were doing in the next gen IT in sustainability and utility optimization. And so we're excited about working with THG and looking forward to going through here and explaining some of the capabilities, and hopefully from that it'll be of an interest for those attending to set up a time and go through a real demo of their solution. How about yourself, Katie?
Yeah, absolutely. So, when you think about, I love the term, how we got here, because it illustrates the fact that moving forward with this is literally a journey, and deciding to take that first step means that you're going to be invested and you're going to be moving forward. And so that first step is really focused around being able to get your data kind of house of cards in order to be able to move forward. Because as our VP of sustainability, Chad Burden, always says, you can't manage what you don't measure, right? And so moving forward, it's really important to understand where you're at with your data, whether that's benchmarking, whether that's understanding your facilities profiles, whether that's understanding your usage and cost from the utility side of things. All of those filter into building a foundation that you have to have in order to successfully engage and move forward in energy efficiency projects and sustainability and load management. All of those things are built around that initial data foundation. And so what we do is we help our customers turn those kind of actionable insights into data that helps move them forward and provides those next steps.
You mean that you're not supposed to just use spreadsheets or manually tabulate this stuff? I remember when I was in my accounting days, right?
Yeah.
We used, we could have done, and when I went through school, we used manual ledgers to learn the basics and to understand the concepts and stuff, right? But you used an accounting system, right? No different than today. People are using all kinds of software and systems as a service to make sure that they can react to the data more efficiently, sooner, and also have more accurate data, right? Because if you're manually doing these things, there's room for human error. So I love what you guys are doing on that front.
Yeah, and it's funny, just as an aside, so our president, Dan Fry, he's actually an accountant by trade. And
Oh,
so
okay.
he, a couple years ago, we wrote up this article about how accountants are going to be the climate superhero. And so we do appreciate the fact that, there's this process that has been around for a really long time. And so leaning on that and improving upon those processes are really, what he encourages, organizations to do, is to we don't want to change absolutely everything. We want to help improve it so it's more efficient, right?
Okay.
Uh,
Absolutely.
and that kind of gets into, some of the goals of partnership that we're talking about here.
Yeah. Why don't you walk us through the little graphic here on how you guys work with the client and why you have these four key steps,
Yeah,
and what are
absolutely.
the compelling events that you see driving the customers to you to use this methodology to help themselves?
Absolutely. So, kind of taking a step back, when you think about what data does, is it helps, identify, prioritize, and then optimize what makes the most sense for each individual customer. So every end user and every business team and organization, even within the same organization, has different goals. And so what we are acutely aware of is the need to create alignment around all of those different needs and just help organizations move forward regardless of what their kind of end goal is. We are very aware of the fact that this data just helps everyone move forward and enables that. We keep going back to actionable insights, but it enables those insights to be able to, move forward. So, basically looking at energy management as a whole, there's a lot of different opportunities now that this data is making possible, because energy data touches so many different components and business units across an organization. You've got accounting teams, which we talked about earlier. You have your facility managers, you have your energy managers, and then now, of course, you also have your sustainability and carbon accounting teams too, that are all leveraging the same, type of data. And so whenever you think about the steps that you need to, do, is one is, create that engagement. So get people excited about participating and make it easy for them to engage. And then two is, reviewing the data that you have. So understanding where you're starting from, and creating kind of like that benchmark and then being able to move forward and track your progress, whether that's reduced usage, reduced greenhouse gas emissions, reduced cost. All of those things can be tracked easily once you have that, data assembled and easily available. And then once you take action, you can begin to document the before and after and the impact of your actions as you continue to pay attention and track. And then, that fourth step is just analyzing how things went. So let's say that you put in some water conservation initiatives. You can go back and you can track and see, okay, what was that impact? Or if you were really pushing towards load management, if you implemented automation strategies on your building control systems, being able to see what, allowing temperatures to raise 1 degree further 1 hour earlier throughout all your buildings over a period of time, being able to see kind of what that does, not only from a cost perspective, but also from a usage perspective. And then restarting that circle all over again, because everything is going to be a constant cycle of trying different things, tracking it, and then recalibrating, what you're going to be doing.
Right. Just because you put in LED lighting 10, 15 years ago doesn't mean that you don't need to modify or upgrade that today, right? I mean, there's so many aspects. And you mentioned load management, and load management I find to be a very interesting subject. But for those that are out there listening, do you mind defining a little bit more about the load management and capability you have, and also that explain a little bit about how your support team, your knowledge in that is added to the solution. So they're not just getting software, installing it, and being done. You guys are actually assisting them with the understanding and implementation and ongoing support to truly optimize their environment.
That's correct. Yeah, we like to say that we connect the dots, right? So once you have your data in place, we can help you review and create strategies around what you would want to do. So when we say load management, people who have been in the industry a long time, I want to be sure to distinguish between traditional demand response programs and what we call load management, right? So traditional demand response programs, they're very formal, very rigid. They're frequently not super beneficial in the long term. And there can also be penalties for those who might sign up and maybe they miss an event. So you can actually be penalized for some of those. So when I say load management, it is a holistic approach to understanding how you can better control your energy usage at various times, not necessarily just to respond to a certain event, but understanding how that impacts your demand charges. So demand charges, kind of even taking a further step back, when you look at the line items on your utility bills, you'll notice that there is a demand charge, and basically that is the fee that the utility is paying to supply you at higher peak times, right? So what is your highest peak whenever they're having their highest peak, and how are you contributing to that overall kind of higher load, right? And so understanding how you can better manage your usage during that period can have really beneficial monetary impacts. And so understanding how that plays into your overall bill, how you can better manage that to not only reduce your greenhouse gas emissions, but also to better manage your spending, because now energy costs are eating up 30 to 40% of budgets, and not all budgets are created to kind of take on that additional cost. And so we're definitely seeing this movement to where people are just paying attention more to better manage their costs, and understanding that there is a correlation there between how they're managing their load and how much they end up spending on their electricity bills.
So I can imagine with inflation today and the increase in energy costs that's a compelling event for organizations, given everything else that's going on in the market influences, to say we should look at how we can better manage our utility services. And I like how you explained around the peak or the demand, because that's one of the influencing factors on the kilowatt uh, cost per hour, right? And so the utility companies have to budget and manage to the ultimate highest um, educated guess that an organization feels they're going to draw, right? And so um, if you go over it, there's some uh, negative impacts, right, to your actual build. Aside from just the total kilowatt hours you're using, your actual rate per kilowatt hour can change in some states depending on the utility practices there.
Right. And, the other thing that, we also keep going back to is, there's always going to be uncertainty around commodity prices and supply chains and regulatory things. Like all of those, things are always going to be in flux. They're always going to be changing. There's going to be uncertainty. But, data organization is kind of that one like sure thing, right? So we always like to say, it is so much better to be prepared. So that way, regardless of what's going on, you know that you're in the best position to take action based off of what is most important to you. If it's, reducing or managing costs, if it's, reducing load, all of that hinges on understanding your data. And so we always encourage people to make sure that data organization is a priority, because all of these things depend on that, whether it's regulatory reporting or benchmarking, or even for Energy Star, right? Like you have to report still. So having that data organized, easily accessible, and updated is so important for any organization as they continue to move forward.
Can you elaborate just on the data as to where you're integrated with the utility providers, if it's automated, and how real time it is? I know in the next gen IT area, AI is largely influencing, the rate at which data can be um, reviewed, analyzed, and provide feedback to take actionable steps. Can you talk about how your solution is moving people more to real-time data so they're not working off of stale historical data, or
Yeah.
maybe it's a couple months after somebody actually compiles it all that they're looking at it, and now your organization has changed, or the market or the supply chain
Yeah.
and the commodity has changed.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that I really appreciate about my company, THG, that I've been here for coming up on 4 years. And we are incredibly practical when it comes to engaging with our customers and partners. And so it makes me a terrible salesman, but we never try to push something that we don't feel makes sense for the end user. So, for example, there are organizations where they only need monthly level data, right? They only need, some of that information to be, possibly 2 months, out still.
Hmm.
However, for organizations that are leaning into real-time energy management and are looking to have that real-time insight, we offer kind of the full gamut of data. Um, what's the word I'm looking for? Cadences, right? So we have a device that allows you to have real-time insights to sub-meter level information, right? So we can help you understand what is going on at your various buildings, processes that are driving load, so you can better understand how you can manage your load curves, so you're not kicking off everything at a peak time, right? Because
Hmm.
that can drive prices, that can drive load. And then we also offer what utilities call interval data, and that kind of gets into like AMI infrastructure, which is like the smart meter, advanced metering infrastructure. And so we collect that as well, and that can either be collected from the utilities. Some utilities are better about accessing it than others. And other ones, do a really good job of keeping it up to date. So it's only maybe like a week behind, but that is in 15-minute intervals. And
Oh
then, like
wow,
I said
every 15
earlier,
minutes. So you have like
yeah.
an API to the billing data and metering
Mhm.
associated with it with the providers.
Yeah, and then our device, we have a proprietary device that allows you to basically create a dashboard so you can see exactly what is going on at all of your facilities in real time. So that kind of is another option for people who are a little bit more engaged and more involved in the actual energy management side of things.
Awesome. Yeah. So you can help the customers at whatever level, meet them where they are at their journey and help
Exactly.
them continue to progress through it.
Yeah.
So getting into the role then of um, the system and what you do you mind just talking us through your role and how you work with third-party vendors and others in that journey?
Yeah, absolutely, Sean. So we like to say that we're the E of ESG, right? So when, ESG, for those who, might be new or still learning about that, ESG is environmental social governance. There's been a lot of different media lately. So we have done a good job of kind of navigating being impartial to however aggressive or non-aggressive people want to be. Again, the data is neutral, right?
Hmm.
And so THG focuses on the data collection side. So we don't do social governance. Those are definitely things that we can support with some data, but we tend to, kind of outsource that to other partners. And so what we do well is we automate data collection. We help you kind of wrap your head around cost, usage, trends, benchmarking, building performance, all of those, types of things, and help you understand the impact that taking action there can have. And then we offer an API solution that can be piped into ESG firms, because regardless, you're going to
Oh
need,
wow.
the
Okay.
data that we have. And so we have an API that allows that to be piped into those other platforms, so that way they can do scope 3, they can do the, SG of ESG. And so we firmly have kind of planted our flag on that left side of, this metric. So helping people with the, reporting and metric side of things, as opposed to kind of being in that consulting realm.
Right. So you're feeding the consultants the data they need to be more efficient and effective at their role in assisting the client, and you can work with any of the third parties that clients may already have. And when it comes to us, the next slide here, I'll just talk through that because we're also not ESG consultants. Our role is we have the portfolio like THG Energy in it to be able to assist with the tools and technology throughout the journey and be able to connect the dots when it comes to the different types of technologies, aspects of the environmentals, from just lowering and being more efficient on your electricity costs, right? To the with your solution, the carbon accounting, the integration, the data to drive it. So we're talking about the sensors, the actual LoRaWAN network behind it, the building controls, focused in on HVAC, air filtration, the electricity, water, and natural gas. But we all and load management that you mentioned, and all the way through to EV charging, which goes way beyond just on the EV charging, right? I mean, there's whole HR benefit to doing that. There's market differentiation from marketing your company. I'll use a restaurant as an example. Your consumers have EV charging, EV cars. And so now you're driving, you need to stop for lunch, and you have two restaurants side by side. One has, EV charging. Maybe they have a reward system that you get a discount if you charge there, right? So there's a real need to differentiate and a demand that's existing. And so when we look at this, we look at our role as being experts in the procurement knowledge and processes to put together and bring in the right players like THG Energy for certain components. But then we have the other providers, when it gets into the connectivity, as an example, that's needed to run this stuff. Ultimately, you're going to need an internet connection to pass that data back somewhere or marry it up with other data. And then that naturally brings in the discussion of cybersecurity, right? What network am I using? We've all heard in the news, an IoT device being hacked or leveraged by a bad actor to get into a corporate network. And so we have the experts in those areas and hundreds of engineers across the disciplines, including the engineers from yourselves, that we would then be able to look in and help the client understand who's really a good fit for us to speak to, right? So they're not wasting their time talking to multiple providers and getting to an end, a dead end, and also avoiding and circumventing issues with integration points. Some companies work better together in what they do than others, just on how they do it. So with that said, let's keep moving forward here. I always get like countdown here on the clock because it's like I could make my coffee last for an hour with this stuff, especially with what you all do, because you do so much and you do it well. Let's just walk through this. What kind of time frame can the consumer expect when they're working with you to enable the solutions and such to their environment?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one of the things that really sets THG apart is we have a complete onboarding process, right? So not only are we helping you position better, to move forward, we also go through and we work with you to QA all of your historic data too. So we go in, we try to load 12 to 24 months of data, but as some of you know, utilities only like to maintain data for a brief period of time. So we go in, we grab the information that we can, and then we go through and we build a tree structure that is at the meter level. So we're really getting into the granular kind of nuances of your information, and we build up from there. So we work with our customers not only to create naming conventions and to create tree structures and grouping and tagging that allow you and your teams to be able to go in and quickly identify areas of comparison for not only Energy Star benchmarking, but also just internal benchmarking. So understanding what your return on investment is from building to building and understanding where the lowest hanging fruit is. So our onboarding takes 90 to 100 days, but that includes all of our, QA. It includes us going through and actually reaching out to the utility or service provider and saying, hey, we noticed that you have holes in your data here. Can we get that filled? So not only are we, QAing it, we're making sure that it is complete and ready for, accounting review, because we do know that it is so important to have a complete picture of what you're working with. And so again, going back to the importance of data and understanding the impact that data, centralized data has on your approach and on your goals. And so understanding how our effort up front leads to people being able to more easily reach and meet their goals, is something that we're really proud of at our organization. And so thinking about what data automation introduces, it streamlines things, it makes things more efficient, but also it, going back to what Sean was saying about working in spreadsheets, when you have multiple teams trying to access that data, is not only dangerous because you don't know what's
Hmm.
updated and you don't know who's updating what, and you're spending time wrangling all this information. It just makes everything centrally accessible for any team who wants to participate and access that data. And so, like I said, it introduces all of these efficiencies and frees up your business units to actually focus on the things that they're supposed to be doing, as opposed to wrangling energy and utility data.
Yeah, I mean,
um,
just to retouch on a couple highlights that you mentioned that um, perk me up kind of thing when you're talking about is, it's a 90 to 120 day implementation cycle, but the customer isn't starting at point zero at that point. You've taken historical data as much as 24 months, depending on the utility provider. So you really have an educated starting point, and you can start driving ROI and performance from day one of implementation because you're not having to collect the data to get the insights to make the actionable step. You've pulled it in. So I think that's huge for the consumer that you're working off of an intelligent data set. You're working off real data. You're not working off of hypotheticals. In looking at a bill, you're looking at real data. And then you also mentioned something, just putting my old bean counter hat on, and I was a cost accountant for some time, so I used to have to go and figure out what it costs to make a widget from the manufacturing line for all the different products, all the way through to getting it to its destination. And with your system, that electricity component or utility cost associated with the production of the services or goods, right? Uh, your system can actually tell with beyond the meter what areas to allocate costs to for the accounting team. So now you have the accounting teams. You also have the operational teams, the maintenance teams. They all have access to the centralized data to be creating and using it in a viable way and really all the way through to basically real time on what they're doing. So I can just see a huge value in that because coming from a manufacturing world in my career, that was difficult. That was
yeah.
difficult to take the bill and work with the engineers in the organization and say, okay, well, how much does this facility area in the facility is drawing of the power? And so you couldn't get as granular as you really would like to because you had to make some educated guesses around it. Where with your solution, you're really honing in on all the aspects to even know the administrative side of the business in the front office, what to do in the front office versus in the warehouse, or as an example. So
Yeah.
super powerful,
one
super
of my
powerful.
one of my favorite customer quotes, we were working with a large water and sanitation district, and we were doing our training because at the end of our onboarding period, we host like a kind of a kickoff, training call, and so their accounting team was invited to, join in, and we finish up, and I was like, okay, like, are there any additional questions? And she goes, Katie, this is like Christmas came in July. Because she had been manually, tracking all of these things and trying to put
Right.
everything together to their appropriate cost centers. And so having that line item detail, like you said, is just a huge time saver for so many people. And so I always like, going back to, this is like Christmas in July. So anyway, but I
Yeah, because
appreciate that.
you can generate the import file to the accounting system, right? So
Yeah.
that these
Yeah. The AP
these
reports.
yeah, the AP
Yeah.
reports and stuff, so people aren't manually coding the utility bill and doing allocations at the end of the day to split it up where they think it should go. It's actually going to be split up where it belongs,
Yep.
depending on the aspects of the solution that's installed. So huge benefit for accounting people. So I can totally relate to that. Just moving along here, in the key takeaways. What do you find, really is the low hanging fruit? And by all means, talk us through some of the key takeaways that you'd like people to hear.
Yeah, so, low hanging fruit can mean different things to different business units, right? So your low hanging fruit for a facilities and maintenance team might be, oh, this report is illustrating that we might have a leak, at this
Hmm.
facility because part of our process is each individual invoice goes through a 30 plus point check. And so we basically act as a third eye. So you can tell us when you want to be notified if something is 15% out of tolerance or 30% over tolerance or those types of things. So we've helped people identify water leaks. We've helped people identify when a boiler was left on kind of out of
Oh, wow.
season.
Yeah.
um, just because when you have so much data to look through on a one-by-one basis, when you're able to aggregate and see things just very quickly across your portfolio, you're able to more easily identify things that look a little wonky. And so you can quickly hone in on those things that you can easily fix, right? So you're able to go turn off that boiler after you've identified that, hey, this usage at this, building doesn't fit what we were expecting. What can we do about it? Same thing with cost. We identify, if there are areas that kind of look a little off. We've also helped organizations see that they've been paying tax whenever they are a tax exempt organization. Again,
Oh,
they're just
interesting.
things that you don't notice because there can be so much data. It's hard to, kind of sift through. And so getting back to, kind of that alignment piece is, understanding how we can introduce these efficiencies so that way everyone at an organization can move together, can move forward together with this information that they've all agreed, is, the one version of the truth, right? So understanding how they can, kind of move forward and leverage that. And, one thing, I've been in energy markets for 17 years, and one thing that's really exciting to me is the monetization of sustainability, because now people are like, oh well, the cleanest, cheapest megawatt is the one that isn't used. And so being able
Right.
to kind of see that light bulb go off in people's heads has been really exciting to me, because now there's a monetary benefit for load reduction and being more sustainable and being a good steward of your resources. And so getting back to you can't manage what you don't measure. You're just having everything available, so it makes it easy to evaluate all of those things in one place. um, those are the things that really make us excited and make for some great conversations, because it makes sense on so many levels to almost any organization. And I love what you were talking about earlier with the connectivity and talking about how CirrusTel works to really put together a complete solution, so that way you're able to move forward and engage in these conversations and in these opportunities that we're seeing, so much growth and interest around. And so we're, really excited to be able to, work with you guys to kind of help move that forward and to make it more accessible to a much, broader crowd.
Yeah, we take a multi-pronged approach to looking at the client's environment and their mission and how the operations is running from multiple aspects. And we do this, and for everybody out there, you can get a complimentary free analysis from us. And we'll be leveraging Katie's team to for the component that's relative to what they do, to get a whole picture around where this low hanging fruit would be for the different facets of the business. And what's nice about what we do is that there's inherent costs that you're using already as a consumer, right? You're already using your internet connectivity. You're already using cybersecurity. You're using a phone system. You're using all these things already. And we're able to go in and without a question, the minimum average that we see and that we're implementing is a 30% reduction in costs across these expenditures, including expenditures in electricity, water, natural gas. And when we start to show that picture, now the business unit can look at it and say, you know what? we're saving 30% over here, it doesn't have to be, and I'll just move to the next slide, it doesn't have to be an incremental cost to have a positive impact on the planet and the environment to meet sustainability initiatives. And this is why we got into this area, just to go a little deeper, is that our mission is to lower the operating costs while positively improving the planet. And there are real world case studies we've been a part of and have done where you can just save money with, and I like how you said it, kilowatt not used is the best possible one, right? So you can have your cake and eat it too. I like to say, right? You can get the best of both worlds. You don't, and we're agnostic. It doesn't matter what the political landscape is or viewpoints or anything like that. Like you said, we're focused on the E in ESG, and we're there to support you and the clients at whatever level makes the most sense for them. And so, data is agnostic, right? You need data to make good decisions financially and operationally, and we really see THG as a key player in this and partner for us. So just talk through, if you would, just a little bit about your mission statement and what you all have out there.
Yeah, so we believe in conserving our resources, and we feel that we are called, to be good stewards of the resources that are on this earth. And so understanding, again, where you're starting at is so key to that. And so if we can make that easier, so, we say that, unifying and automating and simplifying that process in order to, achieve greater efficiency and support sustainability. I'm still working on my coffee. I haven't finished my coffee yet. Support sustainability.
Yeah, you're a couple hours behind me, right? So
right.
you're not as many cups into the day
yeah.
as I am.
Obviously, you need a little bit more. But, sustainability obviously is a term that has taken on a life of its own, right? So sustainability now, is a term that has been thrown around, so much. And to the effect that more people are now talking about it, I think that's good. However, it's also important to understand that in the end, sustainability is just managing your resources so that way, future generations also are able to participate in the management of them, and they're not scrambling for it, right? So like big picture, thinking about how we are positioning the resources to be available for future generations. That really is, what it gets down to is, that stewardship component and helping people understand where they can step in and do more, right? Because if it's hard and if there's, this barrier to entry, then it's not going to be successful for everyone, right? Like we want to remove that barrier, and we're so excited to work with companies like CirrusTel that can help us better reach a broader audience, and in turn, take a look at that more holistic picture and say, okay, these are all of the things that we're doing to move forward with sustainability and with stewardship and with, resource conservation. How can we make that, easier for everyone to participate in? And like you said, Sean, like it's so important now because everyone's having these conversations, right? And so if there's these partnerships like we're in now that offer that unique combination of things, it just makes it easy for companies to say yes, let's move forward with this, and let's work on our sustainability plan. And so we're really excited about that component of
Yeah,
working
because it's
together.
definitely complicated, right? At the end of the day, and there's a lot of moving parts to it. And I think there's a bit of a stigma in a negative sense around it that in order to achieve these things, you're not going to get a good ROI, or at least that's what I've run into in some conversations with people. And you see their eyes open up and they jaw drop because when we do the analysis and show them like, well, here's two, three, four things and ways that you can actually have it would that have an excellent um, that have an excellent ROI to them, and it's just helping your balance sheet, it's helping your income statement, you're making more money, you're more profitable, so there's more value to your organization. And again, it goes back to what you said, and I like this little graphic we have here around measure, manage, offset, report, and optimize, that it aligns with um, your action review steps that you went over earlier. So, with that said, we did go a little long today, but I feel like, there's just not enough time, period, with this stuff. And so, for everybody out there listening to us today, you're going to get a follow-up email. You'll have the ability to go in and schedule a time on the calendar if you're interested in going deeper and having a demo of the THG solution and how it can help your company, and also how CirrusTel can help your company. And by watching this and by signing up and corresponding with us, you do have the opportunity to get a free analysis or complimentary analysis of uh, your business, and it's how sustainability measures, or I like to say utility optimization, just how we can lower the costs at the end of the day and benefit your organization. Plus, it also qualify you for a POC, a free POC on one of the solutions we have that integrates synergistically with the THG solution, and that's a harmonic filtering device inside the panels to improve the efficiency of the electricity. So please reach out to us. Katie, thank you for taking the time out, and I look forward to continue to work with you and seeing the great results with the different customers that we work on together. So you have a blessed day, and we will be in touch.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much, Sean, and we appreciate you guys taking the time to watch us. So thanks.
Great, great. Take care now. We'll talk to you soon.